Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. The Afghan government says its forces have killed 27 Taliban fighters in different parts of the country. The Defense Ministry says the Taliban fighters were killed during operations in Kandahar and Uruzgan provinces. This followed the US announcement of reviewing the peace agreement reached with the Taliban last year. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the review would assess the Taliban's ties with terrorist groups. Former US President Donald Trump's impeachment trial over his role in the deadly Capitol riots will begin next month. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the lower house will deliver the impeachment article to the upper house on Monday. Uganda says its forces have killed 189 al-Shabaab militants during an operation in Somalia. The Ugandan military says the forces under African Union mission raided the terrorist hideouts in the Somali capital of Mogadishu. It said the latest assault is the biggest number of al-Shabaab fighters killed in a day. US President Joe Biden has warned that country's COVID-19 death toll can rise to 600,000 before the pandemic ends. Over 413,000 Americans have lost their lives to COVID-19 and more than 24.8 million have tested positive so far. Pakistan has registered over 1,900 new cases and 43 deaths, taking the fatalities to over 11,247. While global COVID-19 infections have surpassed 98 million, claiming more than 2.1 million lives. And in football, Borussia Mönchengladbach beat Borussia Dortmund 4-2 at home in their Bundesliga clash. Nico Elvedi's double and goals by Rami Bensebaini and Marcus Thuram helped the hosts clinch the victory. Mönchengladbach have lost their 11 previous games against Dortmund. These were the headlines. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from Afghanistan, where the government says its forces have killed 27 Taliban fighters in different parts of the country. The Defense Ministry says the Taliban fighters were killed during operations in Kandahar and Uruzgan provinces. The ministry said the fighters were planning to attack the government forces' positions. This followed the US announcement of reviewing the peace agreement reached with the Taliban last year. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the review would assess the Taliban's ties with terrorist groups. A White House statement quoted Jake Sullivan as saying that Washington will support the Afghan peace process with a robust and regional diplomatic effort. Now in India, the protesting farmers have captured a man allegedly planning to kill 4 union leaders in their upcoming rally. The farmer leaders presented the masked man who confirmed the accusations of sparking violence. The suspect has been detained while 9 other members of his team are yet to be arrested. Talking to media, the man claimed a cop gave him the pictures of the 4 people who were to be shot. A farmers' leader slammed the attempt, saying they are aimed at disrupting the ongoing protest against the 3 contentious laws. Now, moving on, Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has urged United States President Joe Biden to unconditionally lift sanctions imposed by Donald Trump. In an article, Zarif said the new administration needs to abandon the failed policies of its predecessor. He called on Washington to re-enter the 2015 nuclear deal without altering its terms. Zarif said if the U.S. ends its maximum pressure policy, Iran will adhere to its commitments under the agreement. But he warned if Washington insists on extracting concessions, the opportunity will be lost. Earlier, France said Iran must reverse its breaches of the deal, including ramping up uranium enrichment. Now, the Saudi-led Arab coalition says its air defenses have destroyed a missile launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels. The Saudi state media said the missile was fired towards the kingdom's capital, Riyadh, from Yemen. This came just a day after the coalition thwarted 2 terrorist operations and intercepted an explosive boat in the south of Red Sea. The coalition has repeatedly said the Houthi violations pose a threat to international security and navigation. It has also warned against militia's attempt to target civilians. Meanwhile, Uganda says its forces have killed 189 Al-Shabaab militants during an operation in Somalia. The Ugandan military says the forces under African Union mission raided the terrorist hideout in the Somali capital of Mogadishu. In a statement, the defense forces said the latest assault is the biggest number of Al-Shabaab fighters killed in a day. It said a large number of military hardware and items used by the terrorists were also destroyed. The forces added they also disrupted an Al-Shabaab meeting and injured several terrorists. Now, Al-Shabaab has recently intensified attacks on security forces as the military operations against the group continues. Libyan rivals have agreed on the most criteria to select heads of the sovereign positions and the time for their nominations. Now, this comes as the 5th round of political dialogue between the UN-recognized government and the LNA has begun in Morocco. A member of Libyan Supreme Council said discussions are heading towards positivity and the participants are optimistic to reach the reassuring results. He said the talks between delegations of the 2 sides will continue today as well. Due to the division in Libya's east and west, most sovereign institutions have 2 heads. This came days after Libyan Political Dialogue Forum approved the mechanism for selecting heads of the executive authority. Now, Russia has welcomed the new U.S. administration's political will to extend the New START treaty for the next 5 years. In a press briefing, Russian Presidential Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov said Moscow undoubtedly supports the treaty's preservation. Peskov said the extension is needed to get a certain time lag to carry out the necessary negotiations with the United States. The secretary said everything will depend on the details of the proposal, which is yet to be studied. He stressed it is of great importance to respect each other's concerns and take into account Russia's well-known position on the issue. Now, yesterday, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said Biden would seek to extend the treaty for 5 years. New START is the last remaining U.S.-Russia treaty on nuclear disarmament, but it's set to expire on the 5th of February. Meanwhile, in the United States, the retired Army General Lloyd Austin has made history by being sworn in as the country's first black defense secretary. Under a law, Congress prohibits individuals from serving as Secretary of Defense within 7 years of active duty service. However, after approving the waiver, the Senate voted 93-2 to confirm Austin. In his message to the force, Austin said his job as a defense secretary is to establish sound policy and strategy and assigning clear missions. Austin was the first black general to command an army division and also the first to oversee an entire theater of operations. Earlier, the Senate confirmed Avril Haines as the first woman to lead 18 intelligence agencies as Director of National Intelligence. Now, former United States President Donald Trump's impeachment trial over his role in the deadly Capitol riots will begin next month. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the lower house will deliver the impeachment article to the upper chamber on Monday. Schumer said during the 2 weeks period, House impeachment managers and Trump's defense team will have time to prepare. Speaking in the Senate, the Democrat said healing and unity will only come if there is truth and accountability. Meanwhile, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's office said he was glad Schumer had agreed to his request for more time. Now, in a statement, the office said the goal has been achieved as this is a win for due process and fairness. Trump's impeachment trial would be the first of a U.S. president no longer in office. Also, U.S. President Joe Biden has discussed migration and bilateral cooperation with his Mexican counterpart, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. In a tweet, President Obrador termed the call pleasant and respectful. The Mexican president said everything indicated that future ties will be good for both nations. Meanwhile, Mexican Foreign Ministry said López Obrador celebrated the legacy of Mexican migrants in the U.S. during the call. It said the Mexican president reiterated that the best way to manage migration is to promote development in places that fuel the phenomenon. The ministry added López Obrador said Mexico City wants to work with Washington on their broad bilateral agenda. United States President Joe Biden has warned that the country's COVID-19 death toll can rise to 600,000 before the pandemic ends. Over 413,000 Americans have already lost their lives to COVID-19 and more than 24.8 million have tested positive so far. While global COVID-19 infections have surpassed 98 million, claiming more than 2.1 million lives. More on the coronavirus in this report.
World's battle against the COVID-19 pandemic seems to be getting tougher and tougher as the time passes by. The first positive case of the COVID-19 variant detected in South Africa has been confirmed in Panama. In the U.S., around 200 National Guards deployed to Washington have reportedly tested positive for the coronavirus. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported its biggest daily vaccine administration of 1.6 million people. However, more states, including New York, Louisiana, and New Jersey, have claimed they're struggling with the vaccine supply. Meanwhile, researchers in the University of California have sequenced all forms of coronaviruses from natural hosts to develop vaccine for future outbreaks.
Why are we doing this? It's because we want to develop a vaccine that will protect not only for against COVID-19, but also protect from common cold coronavirus and protect from the next outbreak. So we are getting ahead of the game so that if let's say in 2025, 2030, 2035, there is another outbreak, then we will have a preemptive vaccine that is ready to stop that outbreak locally in that region before it spread globally and do the damage that it did today.
In Europe, Belgium and Finland have imposed harsher restrictions to limit the spread of more infectious variants hovering around their borders. Hospitalization in the UK is 78% higher than during the first peak in April 2019. In France, the total number of infections has surpassed the 3 million mark. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization and Pfizer have signed a deal to provide up to 40 million doses to poorer states through the COVAX facility.
Today, I'm glad to announce that COVAX has signed an agreement with Pfizer-BioNTech for up to 40 million doses of its vaccine. Additionally, pending WHO emergency use listing, we expect almost 150 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine to be available for distribution by COVAX in the first quarter of this year. Together, these announcements mean COVAX could begin delivering doses in February.
Hong Kong has issued temporary stay-at-home orders for 10,000 residents of virus hotspots Kowloon Peninsula. This is the city's first ever lockdown since the outbreak. Universities across China have rolled out travel plans to guard students against COVID-19 risks on their home trips for the winter holiday.
Meanwhile, China has asked its pharmaceutical companies to accelerate exports of COVID-19 vaccine to Pakistan. China earlier said it will give 500,000 doses of the vaccine to Pakistan. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the directions have been issued to the pharma companies. Meanwhile, Pakistan recorded another 43 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, raising the toll to 11,247. Health officials reported 1,927 infections over the past 24 hours. The number of cases have risen to nearly 531,000, while over 484,000 have recovered. The Health Ministry says the number of active infections in the country is just over 35,000. Now, Pakistan Navy is holding 7th multinational maritime exercise Aman next month in Karachi. In this drill, Navy forces from across the world carry out joint operations and share their experiences. According to a naval spokesperson, the forces from over 40 countries will participate in the Aman exercise this year. The drills are being held under the objective of Together for Peace. The spokesperson added the exercise aims to strengthen maritime cooperation and secure global maritime peace. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, renowned Pakistani mountaineer Samina Baig is set to attempt K2 summit in the upcoming summer season. The Special Communications Organization is sponsoring Baig's expedition. In the signing ceremony, Baig thanked her sponsor and said, together they will achieve the unimaginable. Her expedition is aimed at raising awareness on global warming, climate change and women empowerment. The team led by Baig will begin their trek to K2 base camp from Skardu in May. Baig became the first Pakistani and Muslim woman to climb the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, at the age of 21. She will be the first Muslim woman to make history if she climbs the second highest peak of the world. Now in Chile, hundreds of anti-government protesters hit the streets of the capital Santiago, calling for an end to inequality. Police in riot gear used water cannon and tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. The Latin American country has seen protests against stark inequality for over a year now. Protesters have been calling for reforms to existing pension, healthcare and education system. Chileans voted in favor of a new charter to replace the country's Pioneer Cat-era constitution in late last October. U.S. social networking giant Twitter has suspended an account linked to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The account tweeted an image of a golfer resembling U.S. former President Donald Trump under a drone. In a statement, Twitter said the account was fake. It said the company suspended the account for violating the platform manipulation and spam policy. However, the text and graphic of the tweet were also carried by Khamenei's official website. Now, Australian Prime Minister says his government is in no rush to sign up to a target of net zero carbon emission by 2050. In an interview, Prime Minister Scott Morrison refused to take a new emission reduction target to a key UN climate conference. He said the timeline to commit to the target depends on the production and storage cost of hydrogen, steel and aluminium. Morrison added everyone wants to achieve the net zero target, but it cannot be done by just having some commitments. The Prime Minister said it's not about the politics anymore, it's about assessment based on the technologies. Saudi Arabia has opened its first drive-in movie theatre in the capital city of Riyadh. This is a unique entertainment experience for the moviegoers amid strict measures against the pandemic. Let's have a look.
A homegrown chain, MUVI Cinemas, has opened up a pop-up movie theater in Riyadh. The facility has started featuring 3 showings per day. The movie theater can accommodate up to 150 cars while maintaining social distancing. Some moviegoers have described the experience as exceptional and enjoyable, especially in Riyadh winter.
بصراحة تجربة سينما السيارات تجربة رائعة. Honestly, the experience of drive-in cinema is a great experience. I never expected that it will be like what I am seeing.
Who would have believed that this will be in Saudi Arabia? And yet, it's happening, thanks God.
Audience members are required to wear face masks. Viewers can buy food and drinks, but they have to take them in cars. The organizers say they have applied all the precautionary measures to ensure a safe environment for the employees and customers.
The most important thing is that we follow the precautionary measures to avoid COVID-19, and this idea is for citizens and residents to watch the movie and stay safe from COVID-19 at the same time.
Drive-in cinemas popped up in other parts of the Middle East since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, with similar venues opening up in Dubai and Beirut early last year. Saudi Arabia has recorded over 365,000 coronavirus cases and more than 6,300 deaths so far.
Now, a rare portrait made by Renaissance artist Sandro Botticelli is set to join the $100 million art club at an auction in New York. The 15th century art piece named Young Man Holding a Medallion is one of only around a dozen of his portraits known to survive today.
Young Man Holding a Roundel was acquired by its present unidentified owner at an auction in 1982 in the United Kingdom. It shows an unknown young man dressed in a simple tunic with the blue sky behind him and holding a roundel or medallion. Sotheby's said the painting is one of the best unparalleled masterpieces by the Renaissance artist.
This transcends other paintings by Botticelli in studio that we've seen that have been on the market. This is a picture that is on a masterpiece level. And so when we were thinking about what the right sort of level and what sort of price is appropriate, we really looked at not other paintings by Botticelli because there's simply no other parallels in terms of condition, quality, perfection, let's say, and image.
Other notable works being put up to auction include Rembrandt's Abraham and the Angels. Sotheby's is expecting the piece to get $20 million to $30 million.
The other thing that I like about this picture is just the incredibly strong narrative sense that Rembrandt brings to bear. It's a very, gem-like size, but he uses the full force of composition, of light, dark, drama, brushwork to create this story. And the story itself, as I said, which is an Old Testament one, is a wonderful image and idea.
Also being put to auction is Autumn, a 1616 sculpture by father and son, Pietro Bernini and Gian Lorenzo. Sotheby's estimates the piece will go between $8 million to $12 million. The sales process began on Friday, will continue to the end of the month.
Now, Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne has been sidelined for nearly 6 weeks due to a hamstring injury. The Belgian playmaker suffered the injury during City's last fixture against Aston Villa. De Bruyne may miss up to 10 matches, including the Champions League encounter with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Meanwhile, Leicester City's Jamie Vardy is also out for a few weeks to undergo a minor hernia operation. Vardy has scored 11 Premier League goals this season and is in the running for the Golden Boot. Now in cricket, Pakistan team held a practice session at the National Stadium in Karachi as they get ready to face South Africa in the first test of a two-match series on Tuesday. Former skipper Azhar Ali said the Proteas will be a challenge for Pakistan despite playing away from home. Ali said Captain Babar Azam's return to fitness has massively bolstered Pakistan's batting unit. Ali was hopeful that the home side will return to winning ways after a series loss in New Zealand. Earlier, South African pacer Kagiso Rabada said they are expecting reverse swing to play a crucial role in the series, but he said his teammates will work hard to adjust to unfamiliar conditions. Now, the two teams will also play a three-match T20 series in Lahore. The International Olympics Committee has reiterated the pledge to hold the Tokyo Games as scheduled. Committee's president says the entire Olympic movement is looking forward to the opening ceremony on the 23rd of July. President Thomas Bach said the top priority of the organising committee is the safety and security of the participating athletes. In a message, he said the IOC is looking at a huge toolbox of measures to prepare for anything that may hinder the Games. Bach added the athletes will enter the stadium with full pride and with the message of resilience and of Olympic values like solidarity and peace. In motorsports, Welsh driver Elfyn Evans has taken a lead after the second day of the Monte Carlo rally in Monaco. 7-time world champion Sebastian Ogier won the day's first 3 stages but lost time due to a flat tyre. Hyundai's overnight leader Ott Tanak dropped to third overall with almost 18 seconds behind Ogier. Toyota's Cale Rovanperä finished fourth after taking the lead briefly in the morning and then incurring a 10-second penalty. Later, the Finn lost more time with an excursion into a field. The rally is being run without spectators due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the world. That's all for now. For the latest update, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News. Take care.